When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Red, your late afternoon catch-up on all things Liverpool FC on a Tuesday on which Twitter's having meltdowns for absolutely nothing. Now people have decided, without any journalists suggesting it might be the case, that Liverpool won't sign anybody this summer. And that, of course, is leading to spiralling in mental behaviour and, underpads being soiled and all the usual things that we see on Twitter when people are bored. All there's been is the article in The Athletic today, which is their transfer catch-up across the board, which James Pearce just copies and pastes most of what he's said in previous weeks into it each week. But he did say that the priority for Richard Hughes at the moment is the contract extension for Trent Alexander-Arnold. And there are some reports, some rumours, not reports, there's no reports, there are rumours circulating from a couple of people that, over time have gotten a few things right, that Trent might be ready to sign a 4-year contract that'll bring him up to 2028 for wages in the ballpark of about 300 grand a week, which I think is fair, would put him in line with people like Declan Rice and what he earns at Arsenal with Kai Havertz and what he earns at Arsenal with Jadon Sancho and Marcus Rashford at Manchester United. And what that's doing is that's raising the wage ceiling at the club. It's keeping within the structure, which is positive, but it's raising the ceiling. And it doesn't make him the highest earner at the club. Mo would earn more than that. And I'd imagine if and when Mo signs an extension, it'll be on similar enough terms to what he signed the last time. I think Virgil will probably be looking for a slight bump from his 250. I think that's fair, and I think that should happen. I think with the service he's given us, it's absolutely right. And with this deal for Trent, that would take him up until he was 29, about to turn 30 at the club. And after that, you're probably only looking at one more contract for Trent. Another 3 to 4 year extension beyond that would take him towards the end of his career. At that point, in 2028 or maybe the year before in 2027, it might be the time that you sit down with Trent and say, look, we're not going to give you a big new deal after this one. Would you like to explore your options? And maybe he could move on to Real Madrid at that point. They'd certainly still want him. He'd be a big enough name, a big enough star, and certainly good enough. So hopefully the Trent deal will get done and put a lot of the worry to bed. The Mo and Virgil deals, I think, can be done a little bit slower, in part because they're that bit older, and losing them for free, while it would be a massive blow to the club, especially given they're still elite level footballers, best in class in their position, they are the wrong side of 30. And we would be looking at replacing them sooner than we'd be looking, I think, at replacing Trent anyway. Trent, if, for example, he did leave on a free next summer, he'd be walking out the door at 26, turning 27 in his prime. Virgil will be 34 next year. Mo will be 33 next year. Losing them in a free again would be a huge blow, but it doesn't have the same kind of psychological impact to lose a 33 and a 34-year-old on frees as it would to lose a 26-year-old who came through the academy. Growing up, when I grew up with the players that I saw come through, you know, your Steve McManamans, your Robbie Fowlers, your Michael Owens, it was always tougher seeing them leave the club than players of, you know, equal or similar levels of talent who were bought in from outside. I remember when McManaman left, it was just devastating. He was our best player by a country mile. He was brought through the academy. He'd been the best player in the league for a couple of seasons. The team had been built around him. That was really tough. It was a little bit different with Owen and Fowler. Fowler, because he'd had so many injuries, and it was pretty well known that him and Houllier had fallen out as a result of a falling out he had with Phil Thompson. And so it wasn't as big a disappointment. It was still a shock. It was still horrible when Fowler left. And obviously he was brilliant when he came back. But when you see what happened when he left, we probably did sell him at the right time and get a decent chunk of money in for him. And then with Owen, by 2004 when he left, he wasn't the same player he'd been in, say, 2001 when he won the Ballon d'Or. The injuries to his hamstrings had altered his game. Now, don't get me wrong, Michael Owen was still brilliant, but he wasn't the same phenom that he had been. I mean, I've said this before. When Michael Owen was 17, 18, 19, up until his hamstring exploded, Michael Owen was every bit the phenom that Kylian Mbappe was at the same age. And we could have sold him for whatever we wanted. And I remember Houllier was in charge. I think Owen had just won the Ballon d'Or, and Inter Milan wanted him. And Houllier gave some statement, and he listed like 5 or 6 Inter Milan players. It was like Inter were willing to pay, I think, at the time it would have been a world record fee, so somewhere in the 50 million range. And Houllier said something along the lines of, well, if they were to give us this player, this player, this player, this player, this player, close to 50 million, then we might consider. I just wonder who was in that Inter squad at the time. I know Zanetti was one of the names, because I know part of me always wished we'd signed Zanetti. So I'm going to pull up the Inter Milan 01-02 team. First team squad. So they'd signed Toldo that summer, so he wouldn't have been one. I wonder, Seedorf might have been one. Darren Seedorf was there at the time. They had Christian Vieri and they had R9, but there was a lot of talk about R9 wanting to leave, and obviously at that point as well, his knees were just giving him incredible trouble, which is, I think, why Inter wanted Owen. I think he'd played 7 or 8 games across the previous 2 seasons, the 99-2000 and 2000-2001 seasons. He played like 8 games in all competitions, and I think there was doubts over whether he'd ever play again. So I think their idea was to bring in Owen, and I assume partner him with Christian Vieri, who was a machine for them. Alvaro Recoba was there. He would have made sense for us as well. Ivan Cordoba, was he there, or did he arrive in the summer? He might have been one of them as well. He was linked to us for a while. Yeah, he was there. So it might have been something. He was definitely Zanetti. I assume it would have been like Seedorf, Cordoba, Recoba, and maybe somebody else. But Jed was having none of it. In hindsight, maybe we should have taken the 50 million, or at least tried to get, you know, I mean, Clarence Seedorf would have been lovely to have, wouldn't he? And he didn't really enjoy his time at Inter. He would leave the following summer. Zanetti obviously went on to stay for the remainder of his career and become arguably the biggest icon in club history. He probably wouldn't have left to come to England, given the dislike that some Argentines have for England and English football and the English media. But yeah, I mean, Owen, when he left and went to Real Madrid, he was no longer the same caliber of player, but he was still brilliant. Like, he genuinely was still a brilliant footballer. And in that last season that he had with us, he'd scored 19 goals in 38 games in all competitions. Just a sensational footballer. Like, comes through, makes his debut at the end of the 96-97 season, scores 1 goal in 2 games. In his first full season, he scores 23 and 44, 18 and 36 in the league. Then the next season, he's 23 and 40, 18 and 30 in the league, has some injury issues, the hamstring, obviously. Then the following season is his only bad season for us, 12 in 30, 11 and 27 in the league. And then he roars back because he changes his game and he becomes more of a penalty box type of poacher and uses his speed in shorter bursts. And he always had elite movement. He was a great finisher. He was super intelligent. He's a really good link player as well. 24 and 46, 16 and 28 in the league. 28 and 43, 19 in 29 in the league. 28 and 54, 19 and 35 in the league. Houllier did a really good job of rotating when we still had Fowler. We had Fowler, Heskey and Owen, and he'd just be able to rotate them and keep them all as fit as possible. Obviously injuries happen, but he did a great job at keeping Owen fit. And in that final season, 19 and 38, he had some injuries, but 16 and 29 in the league. Really, really impressive. He went to Real, played as a squad player, 16 and 45, 13 and 36 in the league. I always wish we signed him back, but he went to Newcastle and just couldn't stay fit for 2 years. And then by the time he came back in 2007, he just wasn't the same anymore. And he was 28 years of age. His pace had diminished. His confidence in his pace had diminished. And then obviously he ruins much of his legacy with Liverpool fans by going to United. Has one good season for them in that 09-10 year, and he plays a pretty big part as a squad player in them. Oh no, they didn't win the league that year. They won the league the next year. Chelsea won the double that year. And he didn't play a big part in that double. He played 11 games in the league, 17 in all competitions. Then he's a completely wasted year in 11-12. 4 appearances. Did score 3 goals though. And then he plays 9 times for Stoke the following year, and he's done. Such a shame. Such a shame. What a career he was on path to have. 158 goals in 297 games when he left us. Such a shame. He spent 8 years, it was 7 years in our first team. 7 years in our first team. And he spent 9 years away from Liverpool. And in the 9 years he was gone, he played less than 200 games and scored 64 goals. Yeah, 64 goals compared to what he'd been beforehand, even for England. Like, with us, he had played, let's see, and 10 and 13 is 23. He played 66 times for England when he was at Liverpool, and he'd scored 28 goals. Now, his goal per game ratio stayed pretty good, but he only played 89 times, scored 40 goals. He's basically an international retirement by 2007 because he played once in 2008 and never played again after that. Never played for England after the age of 28, given he was on track to not just break Bobby Charlton's record, but obliterate it. And yet, his international career ends in 2008. But he was so special. Him leaving was really tough. Really, really tough. But it had kind of been expected because he'd been running down his contract in a similar way to what McManaman had done. And there was a feeling that he didn't feel respected. And when Rafa took over, the two of them didn't really get on that first summer. And then he got a dreadful deal for him. Like an absolute shocker of a deal. 8 million and Antonio Nunes. At the start of that summer, there was talk about us getting Eto'o plus cash because Real owned Eto'o. He'd been on loan from them at Mallorca, I want to say. And then in a roundabout way, I think he signed for Mallorca permanently and then went to Barcelona or something like that. But that was the deal that was being mooted in the press, was Eto'o and cash. And in the end, we got Antonio Nunes, who is, without meaning to be disrespectful, one of the worst players I've ever seen wear the Liverpool jersey. And somehow he is a Champions League winner's medal. One season he was at the club. And I think we sold him for like 2 million. So we got 10 million for Michael Owen. Absolute shocker. Anyway, this is Anfield. Liverpool confirm 28-man squad travelling for the US pre-season tour. So Alisson, Virgil, Ibu, Trent, Gomez, Alexis, Gravenberch, Gakpo, Jota, Nunes and Diaz are all still on break. And they, I assume, will stay home and begin their training at the AXA rather than flying over. So, the squad: goalkeepers, Kelleher, Yaros, Pitaluga and Davies. Defenders: Quansah, Vandenberg, Phillips, Nalo, Robertson, Bradley, Tsimikas, Chambers and Beck. What's notable there is we're only bringing one right back and 4 left backs. Midfielders: Szoboszlai, Jones, Endo, Elliott, Bajcetic, McConnell, Morton, Stevenson and Nioni. And forwards: Salah, Carvalho, Doak, Gordon, Kumas and Blair. Jayden Danns is unavailable due to injury, as is Bobby Clark. So that's why they're not with the group. Let's see. Who are Liverpool's 4 pre-season opponents, ex-Reds and former targets to feature? So Real Betis, obviously Adrian moved to them. Nabil Fekir is there now. Arsenal. According to this piece, it's possible that Alisson and Jota and the rest will join up during the tour. So maybe they are going to fly out and join the tour over there. Because they're saying here that Alisson and Jota are expected to have linked up with the Red squad, but it's probably too early for them to take part. So that's because they went out a bit earlier than some of the others. United, yeah, sure, we know everything about them. And then Sevilla in the final game, and Suso is still in their squad. Adnan Januzaj is there as well. Right, what else do we have here? Liverpool FC's centre-back dilemma facing Arne Slot this summer. I assume this is because Virgil and Ibu and Joe are still on break. So Sepp and Quansah are the only real centre-backs who are, both good enough and actually grown up with the group, because obviously Ronaldo is very, very young, but I'm hoping he gets to play in one of the games. I want to see how he does. I'm still in favour of keeping Sepp Vandenberg, unless it's a thing where we could sell him and buy someone like Dean Huijsen. I don't see the point in selling him. Selling him to get Euro would have been good if Euro was 35 million and coming in on 50 grand a week. But for 60 million and 150 grand a week and the agent fee and the signing bonus and the consultancy fee, like, it just didn't make sense. Huijsen would make sense because, he's not going to come in and be demanding immediate starts. And I think having him and Kwanzaa behind Ibu and Verge would have been very, very good. But other than that, I'm happy to keep Sepp Vandenberg because he is a very good defender. Right, let's see. What else do we have? Liverpool could see 4 more players joining the squad for pre-season tour. Okay. If I'd read this one first, I might have had to question it. Liverpool goalkeeper may be close to exit after a mission from US tour. We'll have a look at that. The Premier League are suing FIFA over a fixture pile-up and have been accused of hypocrisy. Departed coach hints how close Liverpool were to losing Alisson. Okay, we'll have a look at that. Sounds like nonsense, though. So, the 4 players who could be joining up during the tour, Alisson, Jota, Gravenberch, and Konate. Well, I assume it's Gravenberch and Konate because they didn't play during the tournament, whereas Virgil and Cody did, so they might just get an extra few days. You'd imagine Alexis will be the last one back, given his tournament ended after everybody else's. And unlike Trent and Joe, whose tournament did end the same day, he was actually playing heavy minutes for Argentina while they were unfortunately being ignored by Gareth Southgate because Gareth Southgate is an idiot. Alexis is building himself up quite the collection of international trophies, isn't he? Certainly can't complain too much about having players getting used to winning, and hopefully they can translate that to us winning and winning more trophies, because it would be nice to win more trophies. Okay, so the goalkeeper who was left out of the group is Mrozek, Fabian Mrozek. There'd been some talks that he was due to go on loan this summer, but then there's also suggestions that a couple of Polish teams want to buy him permanently. So we'll see. Premier League and the PFA are suing FIFA alongside other domestic leagues and unions over what they allege is an abuse of dominant position. FIFA accused of taking unilateral decisions on the international match calendar, which is now beyond saturation, in a joint complaint to the European Commission by the umbrella bodies, European leagues, and FIFA Pro Europe. This makes sense. This does make sense, but the Premier League also need to look in their own backyard at what's going on, as do the PFA, because the calendar in England's a bit much as well. They should also be looking at suing UEFA, because the expansion of the Champions League is just more games. FIFA with the Club World Cup and with the extra international stuff, definitely, but they also need to look at all the other parties as well. FSG did reopen talks with Bordeaux over a possible takeover on Monday, but those have fallen through. It is reported that FSG representatives have re-engaged Bordeaux after the previous decision to pull out of talks, but after assurances from the Bordeaux Council that the club's 20 million stadium debts would be written off and the rental costs revised, the decision has been made not to go ahead with any purchase. Wow. And as a result, now Bordeaux have been relegated. That's a horrible, horrible thing for a club to go through. Now, it's entirely the fault of Gerard Lopez, the owner, who almost bankrupted Lille before buying Bordeaux. And if there's any kind of fit and proper owners test in France, once that club is sold, he should never be allowed to own another club. I believe he does own at least part of Boa Vista, so that's not ideal. Okay, what is this? Speaking to the Football Historian podcast, John Achterberg hinted that Alisson would have left if Taffarel had left. Yeah. They were smart to at least keep Taffarel, because if they would change Taffarel, they would probably have told Ali to find a new club. This sounds like absolute waffle, frankly. Sounds like absolute waffle. Anfield Watch, what have you got for me today? We'll skip Liverpool.com because I'm not in the mood for hopes and dreams. Liverpool pair now training with under-21s. That's Billy Koumetio and Reece Williams. Liverpool are desperate as Richard Hughes makes deal a priority. They're not desperate. Again, it's the Trent deal. There's a piece about Kelleher, a piece about Mark Guehi, who I just don't think we'll be signing. It's a piece about Besetic, a piece about Alexis, a piece about Kudus, and a couple of pieces about Virgil. Yeah, not a whole lot there. Let's see if Dave O.C. Hot, our pal Panda Dave, has got much for us. Piece about Jota, piece about the squad, Adrian, West Ham make bid for reported Liverpool target. That's Crescencio Somerville, who's not a target. John Barnes highlights biggest challenge Arne Slot will have to overcome. Eddie Howe has been very clear on the fact that Anthony Gordon is staying. There's a piece about FSG, a piece about Sepp Vandenberg. There's a piece about multiple journalists coming out and saying that the Kubo deal is not where it should be, not where it was reported to be. So obviously the Japanese press were saying, oh, this deal is ready to be done. Lewis Steele has said that's very premature. He didn't rule it out. James Pearce said that senior Liverpool and Real Sociedad sources have said that it's not true, that the deal is almost done, but again, didn't rule out a possible deal being done this summer, which is interesting. Or maybe I'm just thinking too much into it. On AnfieldIndex.com, there is a piece about the squad going to America, a piece about FSG and Bordeaux, a piece about Queeving Kelleher, a preview of the upcoming tour, and then podcast-wise, there is the Monday Lynchtime podcast with Dave Davis and David Lynch. There is a Pro Plus that I did yesterday, looking at the positions of need. So left back and defensive midfield and the different options that we could maybe look at. I'm going to do another one later in the week where I look at centre back and right wing, and then I might do one more looking at left wingers or something. So yeah, listen to those. And then there is a new transfer show, which is Trev Downey and Dave Davis. So give that a listen as well. And we've got more coming this week. Podcasts are heating up. There is an AI Scouted that was recorded today that will be out later. We're going to record another one, I think, tomorrow. There is a Minefield to come this week. There is the David Lynch podcast to come this week. There is the AIP this week. The Anfield Index podcast will be Trev and Cy Brundish. And Sai tells me there will be a fatigue index, but it won't be this week. He has some guests lined up, but because of the field Simon works in and the people he's getting on, they're actually in pre-season camps at the moment, so time constraints and schedules need to just work out, and then there will be that. So, yeah, lots to come, and I will see you all tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Throw the best birthday party ever that your child will always talk about. Big Air Trampoline Park inside Fieldhouse USA at the Polaris Mall can do just that. Award-winning birthday party packages start at just $300, and all birthday parties include pizza, drinks, a party room with a party host, grip socks, printed invitations, and all 40 attractions at Big Air Trampoline Park. It's a birthday party you and your kids will never forget. Book your party today. Big Air Columbus, where the fun never ends. Visit BigAirUSA.com/Columbus for details.